So, have you ever dreamed of taking a real step towards self-sufficiency? Actually knowing where your food comes from? Well, raising your own meat chickens is one of the most rewarding ways to make that happen. In this explainer, we're going to walk you through the whole journey, from day-old chick all the way to a full freezer.
I mean, this is the dream right here. Happy, healthy birds out on fresh pasture. It's such a powerful image, and it's all about having a real, tangible connection to your food. But you know what the best part is? This isn't some far-off fantasy.
That's right. This isn't a year-long commitment. We're talking about a short-term project with a huge payoff. In just a couple of months, you can fill your freezer with high-quality, homegrown meat. It's honestly one of the most accessible ways to get started with homesteading.
Okay, so how do we get there? It all boils down to 3 core stages, and we're going to walk through them step by step. First up is the brooder stage. That's where we take care of those fragile little chicks. Then we move into the grow-out stage, where they really start to pack on the weight. And finally, processing day, when all your hard work pays off. This is our roadmap, so let's dive in.
All right, before you even think about buying a heat lamp or a feeder, you have to make your first and maybe your most important decision. What kind of chicken are you actually going to raise? This one choice pretty much shapes the entire project. And that big decision really comes down to this one question. Are you going for pure speed and efficiency? Or are you more interested in a hardier bird with a richer flavor? That's the fundamental trade-off we've got to explore.
So in one corner, you've got the Cornish Cross. This is the commercial powerhouse, bred for pretty much one thing, growing incredibly fast. And in the other corner, you have the Ranger breeds. These guys are tougher, more active birds that are really built for a life out on the pasture. 2 totally different animals for 2 totally different goals.
Okay, now let's really break this down. What's so useful about this chart is how clear it makes the pros and cons. I mean, look at that growth rate. Cornish Cross can be ready to go in as little as 6 to 9 weeks. That's just wild. But the downside is they can have leg and heart problems. Now the Rangers, they take longer, more like 9 to 12 weeks, but they are way hardier. They love to forage, and that active lifestyle gives you a richer, darker meat. So, here's the bottom line. Do you want a fast, predictable outcome, or are you willing to play the longer game for better flavor and a more resilient bird?
All right, so once you've picked your breed, it's time to build their home. And let me tell you, a safe, secure place for them to live is absolutely non-negotiable for a healthy flock. We're going to start with their very first nursery.
For the first 3 weeks of their lives, your chicks are going to live in what's called a brooder. And you should really just think of it as a mechanical mother hen. Its entire job is to provide constant warmth, easy-to-reach food and water, and to protect those little guys from all the dangers of the big wide world.
And believe me, for a chick that's just a few days old, there are a lot of dangers. Getting cold is a huge one. Drafts are a killer, and they can even get stuck in sharp corners and trampled by their own flockmates. Heck, even a slippery floor can cause a permanent leg injury called splayed leg. So our brooder has to solve all of these potential problems. And this setup right here is the perfect solution. That heat lamp is the star of the show. You'll start it at 95 degrees Fahrenheit for the first week, then drop it by 5 degrees each week after that. The deep pine shavings give them insulation and a good grip. And see how this stock tank is round? If you're using a square box, no problem. Just pile up bedding in the corners to round them out. That'll keep anyone from getting trapped. Simple, but so effective.
So after those first few critical weeks, once they're not little fluff balls anymore and they have their real feathers, your birds graduate from the brooder. It's time to move them into their grow-out housing. This is usually either a stationary coop or a mobile pen, which a lot of people call a chicken tractor. Whatever style of coop you go with, there are 3 rules you just can't break. First, predator proofing is everything, and I mean everything. You need to use half-inch hardware cloth, not regular chicken wire. A raccoon will rip through chicken wire like it's paper. Second, you need great ventilation, way up high to let moisture escape without creating a draft down on the birds. And finally, give them enough room. At least 2 square feet per bird is the bare minimum to keep them happy and healthy.
But look, a safe home is only half the battle. Now we've got to talk about the fuel that's going to drive all that incredible growth. Thankfully, the feeding strategy is pretty straightforward. It's basically a 2-phase plan that's designed to give them exactly what they need right when they need it. This simple strategy is really the engine of the whole project. So for the first 3 weeks, they get a high-protein starter feed, somewhere around 22 to 24% protein. This helps them build a really strong frame. After that, you switch them to a finisher feed. It has a little less protein and is designed for packing on muscle during those final weeks. It's a diet that's perfectly tailored to their crazy growth curve.
Now, this is a really crucial point. How you feed them totally depends on the breed. Cornish Cross were bred to just eat and eat and eat. And if you let them, they can literally grow too fast for their own hearts and legs to keep up. So the solution is restricted feeding. 12 hours with food, 12 hours without. Rangers, on the other hand, are much better at self-regulating, so you can just let them free feed, with access to food 24/7. Getting this right is critical for a healthy flock.
And please, whatever you do, don't forget about water. Chickens are absolute masters at getting their water filthy. The secret to keeping it clean? Elevate the water up to about the height of their backs. It makes it way harder for them to kick shavings and dirt into it. And make it a daily, non-negotiable chore to scrub and refill it. Or, even better, you could look into nipple drinkers, which are almost impossible for them to contaminate.
Okay, you've picked your breed, you've built them a safe home, and you've fed them well. Now we've arrived at the final stage of this journey, the payoff for all your hard work. Let's talk about processing.
So the first big question is, when are they actually ready? Well, for a Cornish Cross, that day comes up incredibly fast. We're talking just 6 to 9 weeks. The slower-growing Rangers are going to take a bit longer, usually somewhere between 11 and 16 weeks to hit that same target weight of about 5 to 7 pounds.
So what does all of this actually cost? Well, for a typical batch of 25 meat chickens, your total investment for the chicks, the bedding, and all the feed is probably going to land somewhere in the ballpark of $400 to $600. And when you start to break that down per bird, you can really see the value in raising your own meat.
And honestly, this quote from the source material absolutely nails it. It's no surprise where most of that money goes. Feed is going to be your single biggest expense, by a long shot. That's why being efficient with it and not letting any go to waste is so important for your bottom line.
And just like that, the journey's complete. Think about it. You've taken a box of tiny, chirping little chicks, and with some good planning and daily chores, you've transformed them into a freezer packed with amazing, homegrown food. That is such a powerful feeling of accomplishment.
You've taken a massive step. You've learned the rhythms of raising an animal, you've provided for yourself, and you've connected with your food in a way that most people just never get to experience anymore. Your homestead journey has truly begun. So the only question left is, what's next?